Hmm. Hey everybody, this is David Drapkin, and we are live, I believe, on many different channels all at once. I am here on behalf of States of Mind, which is part of Pink Elephant, and I'm here to have a chat with an old friend, Glauber Assis. We haven't chatted for a while, so we need to catch up. So let's just do it live with people watching. How you doing, Glauber?
Hello, David. I'm doing very well. Calling in from Brazil, Santa Luzia, Minas Gerais. It's a beautiful day here today, and it's such an honor to have a chance to talk to you a little bit again.
Beautiful. Yeah, we've had some really lovely connections in the past, in person and in New York City. And we also did a podcast together, and you had your guitar and your family there, and our children got to meet each other. So we're going to talk a bit about ritual and music. Yeah, we're going to talk about family. We're going to talk about the
Mhm.
new article that you were one of the authors of recently. We're going to talk about the World Ayahuasca Forum, and we're going to talk about ICPR when I'm going to get to give you a hug. So,
Please.
where should we start? Maybe just want tell us a bit about what you do. What are you up to? What are you working on at the moment?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm very interested in supporting an idea that I've heard for the first time from the indigenous philosopher Ailton Krenak. Ailton Krenak, he is part of the Krenak Nation from the Minas Gerais state here in Brazil, where I live. And Krenak has said something that really resonated inside me, David. He said that the challenge that we are facing now, they're so big that we need the biggest coalition possible to face all these challenges like climate change, this epidemics around depression. So I really believe in the possibility of creating dialogue between different cultures, different language, different forms of epistemology. So nowadays, I'm also collaborating with the Yorenka Tassorense Institute. It's an indigenous-led institute. Our president is Penki Bianco, that is, by the way, in Japan, receiving an award there for
Oh,
his efforts in protecting the forest. And I'm part of the organization team of the World Ayahuasca Forum. And I also live here in Brazil in this beautiful community alongside my family. And we are trying to take seriously the idea of building bridges. So now I'm devoting also my time to be a father, as always, three
mm,
kids, but also organizing a nonprofit in the United States. Now we just got our 501c3 status and our declaration letter that is called Cura Alliance. And our purpose, our intention, our goal is to bring together different forms of science, systems of knowledge, and to give back to indigenous nations and to indigenous communities here in Brazil. So we are supporting psychedelic research, but always towards a real paradigm shift in the field. We've been busy these days.
beautiful, beautiful. So you're doing a lot of amazing work, Glauber, that is really about the future. Um, and I think there's something around your work that makes a bold statement that where we are at now isn't good enough.
Mhm,
There's
mhm,
something missing, yeah?
mhm,
Um, so maybe let's just talk it through. I'll let people know about this article that you wrote with a bunch of other
mhm,
really awesome people, including Simon Ruffle from Exeter. It's called
mhm,
From Renaissance to Confluence, a call for paradigm shift in psychedelic studies. And it was, yeah, it's just published, so June 2026. So what's missing? Let's talk about this. Why are we needing to change where we are at right now with the psychedelic renaissance so that the future is more what exactly? What are we changing and why?
Oh, yes, I love this topic. And we've just published this article in the Psychedelics Journal. And we are talking about the future, right? But there's another expression from the same indigenous philosopher that is the future is ancestral or the ancestral future.
Yeah.
Because I don't see the future as innovation or bringing new things and the new protocol or the new product or the new service. the future can be based and can be inspired by ancestry. So when it comes to psychedelics in general and plant medicine in particular, indigenous peoples, they have been here for centuries. And we are, unfortunately, we are based in a lot of social stigma and prejudice when we're talking about these systems of knowledge, and we don't really proper acknowledge that indigenous wisdom is actually also a good form of science, a different one with their own epistemological assumptions, but it's also science. It's also based in method. It's also something that survived through generations, that demands also training. So what I like to believe, and actually I truly believe, is that we can do better. We can go beyond this model of psychiatry that is already a failure. So when we this is a provocation because of course the name of the article is from Renaissance to Confluence, and we want to provoke people to really believe that a paradigm shift is possible. And a paradigm shift, it's not going to happen only with a different protocol for therapy or better drugs. We need to co-create a different basis, a different backbone for therapy, for supporting people, for treatment. And we're only going to be able to do this if we take seriously the idea of what we call confluence. So I believe that everybody have heard about the Amazon River. It's not this Jeff Bezos Amazon bullshit, but the real Amazon River. The Amazon River is not born alone. Actually, the Amazon River is the Black River and the Solimões River. Each one of these rivers, they have their own identity, their own color, their own taste, their own flavor, their own ecosystem there. But then when they meet together, when they have this confluence, they become the biggest river in the whole world, the richest river, full of life that is feeding people, nature, animals, plants, and also supporting planet Earth's life. So that's the metaphor that instead of trying to create this big single narrative around psychedelics that I call the monoculture of thought, we can welcome cultural clash, we can welcome a little bit of friction, and we can acknowledge differences. Because when we are able to do this, we're also opening our minds in order to do something that is really different and not just replicating the same model with different drugs. That's the bigger picture of the idea.
I love that. I love that you brought in the Amazon and the river. And there's that image of the Amazon flowing is actually not just one river, it's multiple rivers. And confluence makes me think of when rivers become a braided river. So apologies, everybody. I love geography. I won Geographer of the Year award when I was 16 years old at high school. And there was something about a braided river where it, it branches into many different kind of interwoven little streams. It's very thin and narrow, but it gets broader and broader. And then it comes to a river delta. And that's the most fertile place of where a river kind of meets the ocean. So when we think about the ocean, it's salt water and the river is sweet water. Yeah, there's something here. I think when we think about science, we're thinking more about it's quite salty.
Yeah.
Not much can live in it, but it's very exact and empirical. So what we're talking about with confluence, with this kind of beautiful braided river, it's interdisciplinary, but interdisciplinary doesn't necessarily mean that it's got spirit inside it.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
think that gets missed. We can have
mhm.
something that's very interdisciplinary, but it's made up of just pure kind of hard science. So it's still very salty. So
Yes.
maybe can we just talk about spirit, Glauber? Because I think that's why we've got a nice connection, you and I, is we believe in there being something spiritual, that we are spiritual, that life itself has this kind of aspect to it. So what is it around your work, the article that you produced, and some of the confluence that we're hopefully going to evolve into the new paradigm with, that means spirituality has to be part of our human experience? Why?
Hmm. No, that's very beautiful, very profound. And yeah, I will start with something very recent now. I believe that some of our listeners here, they've read the executive order that the President of the United States signed to accelerate psychedelic research. And I read the full document, and they don't mention indigenous peoples at any time there. They don't
Mm,
mention spirituality anytime there. They don't
mm,
mention also Latin America or other places in the world but the United States. So, and then there's this very interesting moment in the interview that the president of the United States gave about it. He said something about Iboga, and like, I want to try this
mm,
thing. Like, do you have some for me? And this, I believe, it's a very interesting symbol about what the German philosopher and sociologist of religion, Max Weber, called the rationalization, or to use a better expression, the disenchantment of the world. So according to Max Weber, the process of modernity was something that we could summarize in the loss of magic as a factor to explain the world. Magic was not in the room anymore. So we have a disenchantment of the world. We have a disenchanted world. And that's the same thing I believe that is happening right now with psychedelics. And we need to pay attention into that because there are so many positive sides when it comes to psychedelic assisted therapy, but there is this disturbing factor in the room that is the loss of magic, the loss of enchantment, the loss of spirit as something that is not only metaphysical, but that really can help people navigating their experiences, make meaning of their own experiences. So that's the thing that calls my attention the most in the psychedelic field, that we are naturalizing the idea of disenchanting everything. So this is the elephant in the room, spirituality. And since we want to find evidence and we want to have everything approved, we are stopping talking about spirituality. But according to some indigenous elders that I respect very much, it's not possible to just deny spirituality because it's an intimate and very important part of indigenous cosmologies and it's what we call in anthropology symbolic efficacy of the experience, setting, culture, philosophy, and healing as well. So I would say that bringing spirituality back when it comes to psychedelics, it's not only a matter of folklore or religiosity, but it's also a matter of sustaining a different paradigm.
mm. And I love that we're talking about something that we've lost. It's sad that we've lost this, yeah. But the fact that we're talking about is something that used to be more prevalent, used to be more accessible, used to be more kind of within us, and just visible and tangible around us. Like I can see what you've got behind you. You've got beautiful sky and trees. I've got some trees over there. There's some nice purple flowers over there. But yeah, a lot of us live in cities. A lot of us see cars and smoke and pollution and screens. So it's easy to forget where we came from for thousands of years. So and I've heard it called before, like the great forgetting of our ultimate nature. So there's something really important that we are remembering. So that's quite empowering, that what we're doing here. I want to just tell folks who just joined, because we're kind of halfway through. My name's David. I'm speaking to Glauber. We're talking about lots of things to do with psychedelic culture, psychedelic research, moving from the Renaissance to Confluence. And I just put into the comment box there the article that Glauber recently wrote, From Renaissance to Confluence, a call for a paradigm shift in psychedelic studies. And I'm also going to pop into the chat box a link for the community that we are developing here at Pink Elephant States of Mind as well. I am doing some webinars next week. So it's free and people are welcome to join. The webinar is called Decoding Europe's Psychedelic Past and Future. You do need to be a member of the community on Circle. It's free to join. So sign up to the community. You can check out our articles. I actually just posted an article about spiritual emergence, spiritual emergencies, and ontological shock.
Mm.
Things that I love talking about, things that are really important, but we don't know much about in kind of classical psychology or medical paradigms. When we're talking about psychedelics, these are paradigm shifts, and a lot of people have a spiritual emergence. Something changes within them, something happens to them where they see themselves differently, they see reality differently, and there can be an ontological shock where the normal kind of structure and rules and norms of society, of the sense of meaning and purpose of life, they become less fixed, more malleable, and they can also lead to kind of the potential remembering of who we truly are, but then a process unfolds. So I guess what I wanted to share here is a suggestion for us folks that maybe are moving towards confluence, remembering our true nature, going through maybe a bit of a spiritual emergence and ontological shock. What in your work around lived kinships and cosmic diplomacy applies to me as one human being, but it also applies to all of us as humanity? How can
Mhm.
that be the same thing? Because it's so different. My sense of me and my reality, my identity, and our collective sense of who we are, why we're here, and what it means to belong to Earth and humanity.
Wow, we are entering a very, very special realm here right now. I wish we could have like hours and hours of conversation. But you know, David, I've been more and more interested in the work of the Jewish philosopher Walter Benjamin. And he wrote this piece that I believe it's very interesting to understand psychedelic field right now. That it was called the work of art in the era of technical reproduction. And his argument was very interesting. He said that when we are talking about art, real art, we are talking about something that carries an aura. There's an aura there. There's something that is unique that cannot be replicated. And then when the cultural industry tries to replicate and replicate and replicate art, there's no aura anymore. So I think that's the one of the main challenges for us right now when it comes to the psychedelic field. There's something about there that is of the order of the mystery, that is unique, that is spiritual, that is beyond the standardized protocols. But then when we try to escalate and replicate without paying attention, we are losing the risk of healing the aura of the psychedelic experience, this numinous possibility of an ineffable experience. And that's what we want to recover. That's what we don't want to lose. We don't want the psychedelic field to become just another industry. It's important to keep the aura there alive. And this is what indigenous traditions, they are experts in doing, in navigating different epistemologies, different ontologies, different worlds. So that's the idea behind cosmic diplomacy. That is a word that Ailton Krenak, this indigenous philosopher, used to describe the work of Davi Kopenawa Yanomami. Davi Kopenawa Yanomami, he's the actually he's the author of the seminal book, The Falling Sky. And he's a very, very strong and committed shaman of the Yanomami people. And then Ailton Krenak was describing his work and said, Davi Kopenawa, he's a cosmic diplomat because Kopenawa Yanomami, he translates the language of the spirits, the Shapiri, to Westerners. He's navigating these different realities and trying to create this dialogue between them. So I really believe this is a very bright and beautiful metaphor. And I think we have the responsibility, our generation, to create this cosmic embassy here in which we can create a real dialogue between Westerner academic science indigenous forms of knowledge, psychedelic experience, and co-create a different thing, a different paradigm. And I truly believe that this is possible, but we need also to change the terms of the conversation. We need also to balance the hierarchies of power when it comes to psychedelics, to give the proper acknowledgement to indigenous systems of knowledge. But I believe in the possibility of this real dialogue, and also in very practical terms. But when it comes to kinship, it's also a very beautiful provocation that a group of indigenous scholars they made when it comes to psychedelics, because one of the most popular and common translation for psychedelics is the mind manifested, right? And then they were provoking a different discussion. They said that we don't really agree with the idea of the mind being manifested. It's more for indigenous peoples. It's more like they were saying that it's more like the kinship being manifested. So perhaps instead of psychedelics, we could say that these systems of knowledge they are kindelics. They are the kinship being manifested. And this being said, I really believe that part of the paradigm shift we are looking for is in changing our perspective, not being so focused in the individual experience and the result for specific individuals when it comes to psychedelic assisted therapy, but adopting a relational approach. So instead of just what do this medicine they bring to my daily life, and then I need to integrate it, but how do these plant medicine defy my relationships, or how they help me to shift the way that I relate to others? There is also this very special concept by Isabel Stengers, cosmopolitics. So how would the psychedelic field be if we took seriously the idea of hearing the opinion, the voice of the plants? What does ayahuasca think about ayahuasca internationalization? What does peyote think about peyote being consumed this way? So if you are able to understand that the bifurcation of nature, human beings here and nature there, it's just a terrible illusion, and that we are actually nature, perhaps we can develop a different relationship and a different approach when it comes to psychedelics. We can also think about politics, economics, political economy, and then we can really create a model of consuming these substances and these plants that is something different. And I truly believe that we can do this, and we can do this in a very, as I was saying, a very practical way. So when it comes to research, when it comes to funding, for example, it's possible to fund, but to fund things in engagement with indigenous and community-based projects, and to think about long-term sustainability through alliances with grassroots movements that are going also to safeguard biocultural diversity. It's also possible to think about a stronger participant trust and retention through co-design protocols, ongoing establishment of consent, innovation through integration of diverse epistemologies, from ecological sciences to indigenous cosmologies, for example, co-production of knowledge. And this article that we wrote is a good example of that. We are bringing together indigenous voices, activists, researchers, and I believe that this can result in more robust, and translatable findings. So I believe it's very practical and not very, just metaphysical or philosophical. This idea of really believing that kinship is a model that is possible.
Glauber, that was beautiful. Thank you. Really. I'm remembering when we've had previous discussions, this is how it feels. And I really enjoy it, because part of it is my intellect, and you're academic, you've got your PhD, and you're talking about concepts and terms, you're talking about theories and principles, which is helpful for understanding, but then there's this feeling as well. and emotionality, like particularly when it's embodied physically. And I think that expresses a lot about what it is we're trying to do, particularly with body and mind. And I had this thought as you were talking, Glau, about this cosmic diplomacy, and you mentioned that we need to build cosmic embassy. We need to meet inside this cosmic embassy. It made me think, I think I'm a cosmic embassy. I think
Mhm.
we all are. We're all cosmic embassies. We're a meeting place individually inside of us between competing paradigms, belief systems, and concepts, and parts of us and experiences that we've had. And there is conflict and tension, but there's also that breeds so much beauty. It's so fertile and fecund is a word I like to use at the moment. That's the place where amazing things happen, like it's a breakthrough. So this idea that we as individuals, I want to stick with this idea that we are a cosmic embassy inside of us individually, and there's a collective. So one of the other things we want to talk about, we've just got a few minutes left as well. We're going to meet at ICPR in a couple of weeks. So for anyone that wants to come to ICPR, it's in the Netherlands. It's June the 4th to the 6th. I'll be there with all the team from Big Elephant. Glauber will be there. For me, that is a beautiful meeting place. It's a bit of a, maybe that's a cosmic embassy. And then later in the year, Glauber, you're going to the World Ayahuasca Forum, a different kind of, in a sense, collective cosmic embassy. So maybe let's just set some intentions around how can we meet people together so that we can connect in this way, where we talk about the things that need to be talked about, where we acknowledge the problems that are real, where conflict and tension is allowed in the space so that we can move forwards. Just give us a bit of a dialogue around how do we do that, and it's setting some intentions around how we meet each other in these kinds of spaces.
Yes, with pleasure, David. Thank you very much. I'll be in ICPR also leading a symposium that has the same title of our article. So we are going to talk about from coming from the Renaissance and going to the Confluence. And I will be there with my dear friends and indigenous leaders, Buu Kennedy from the Yepamasan, the Tucano people, and Adana Omagua Cambeba, who is not only an indigenous woman and an indigenous voice in the field, but also a medical doctor. And she's building bridges between these two forms of science. And if any of you are coming to ICPR, please visit also our booth. We are going to have a booth for the psychedelic parenthood community as well, David. And David has also been a very good advisor for us. So thank you very much. I'm very excited about this encounter. And also very excited about the World Ayahuasca Forum that is going to happen in September this year in Girona, Spain. This is amazing because like 10 years ago, 2016, it was held the World Ayahuasca Conference in Brazil. And it was organized by non-indigenous peoples. And then there was a friction there. And as a response to this Western conference held in Brazil, indigenous peoples, they created the Indigenous Ayahuasca Conference. And then they started doing their own work and their own conference. That is also amazing. I'm also part of the team there. And then they're coming to their sixth edition next year. But after 10 years of conversation, friction, disagreement, that it's also important, differences, they are now coming together and co-creating together the first World Ayahuasca Forum. So we are bringing more than 100 indigenous leaders to Spain in an anti-colonial movement. Like now it's the time for indigenous voices to go to Europe, everybody from different continents, different languages, different cultures together at once and to speak and to spread the word and to spread the seeds, and also researchers, hard sciences, activists, philanthropists, they're all going to be in the same room. And that's I believe the one of the most beautiful things, not to agree with everything, but also to agree and disagreeing. And this is part of how, if we truly, and that's something that also calls my attention, David, because we're always talking about psychedelic science, but science also evolves through friction, through disagreement, to paying attention in the flaws of the other perspectives. And I believe that the World Ayahuasca Forum is taking very seriously the idea of creating good knowledge, of spreading the word, of public education. I believe this is going to be not only groundbreaking but historical. It's the very first time this is going to happen in the global north. If you want to know more, just let me know. Just send a message to David. I hope I can meet you there. If you need any assistance in coming there, but I also believe that this is what excites me very much. That this light, that fire, that I believe it's almost lost when it comes to psychedelics. That our potential of being part of this cosmic dance of life is so huge. It's so beautiful. That's not possible that we just naturalize and take for granted that this is the best that we can achieve. Just this standardized model of psychedelic assisted therapy. Of course, I'm in total support of psychedelic assisted therapy. My point is, we can do better, we can go beyond. And together with indigenous peoples and acknowledging indigenous biocultures, indigenous systems of knowledge, and all the possibilities of systems of knowledge that were born also in different continents and different territories, if we are able to acknowledge that and to co-create a real dialogue and relationship, we are about to possibly leave a paradigm shift that we couldn't even imagine a few years ago.
Amazing. Thank you, Glauber. Now I really understand the confluence piece and the paradigm shift, even from the perspective of the World Ayahuasca Forum being the first time that all these different groups are coming together from within in the indigenous communities and tribes and lands. So that's beautiful. All right. So thank you. Thank you. It's really good to catch up. It's been a while. So we'll have a proper catch up at ICPR. And I hope some people watching can make it to ICPR. Feel free to check us out. My name again, David Drapkin. I work with States of Mind at Pink Elephant. And Glauber, just tell people how to find out more about you and your work.
Yes, please. And just one more piece of information, David, also for our Jewish friends. The World Ayahuasca Forum is going to happen during Rosh Hashanah, and we are going to have Jewish communities present there, organizing a proper Rosh Hashanah there in Hirona. So you're also more than invited to join the movement there. It's going to be very beautiful. And yes, please, I love to, since I'm talking about this, I also need to leave cosmic diplomacy in my life. So if you want to reach out anytime, you can follow me in my social media. It's at Glauber Lourdes in Instagram, also LinkedIn. And also we have a website now of our initiative that is Cura Alliance, Cura with K, curaalliance.org. So yeah, please take a look and to be continued. You're just starting.
Beautiful. Thank you, Glauber. See you soon, everybody, for listening. Thank you. See you soon as well. God bless.